What's going on, guys? Welcome back to No Reserves Radio. I'm your host, Rehn. With me, as always, tonight, it's just Angelo. Austin is on vacation. Technically, Angelo is also on vacation. And hilariously, I was supposed to be on vacation, but I ended up canceling my vacation because some stuff came up at work, and I'm here now. But just funny coincidence, because that wasn't planned for all of us to be on vacation at the same time, but apparently we all put in for it at the same time. But Austin's actually out of town. Angelo came back, yesterday?
I came back Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, yeah, my days are blending together. I'm still, if you listened last week, Austin and I were sick. I'm still coughing, so if you hear me randomly stop talking and pausing for a minute, that's because I'm having a coughing fit, and I apologize. But we were gonna have a guest host tonight, but it didn't line up to just kind of fill the void of Austin, since he is, a third of our talking power here. That said, tonight is going to be a fairly short episode. It's not necessarily that there's not a lot going on, because preseason did kick off today. It's just we're kind of game planning for the season kickoff, because we are now 20 days away from the regular season. So we are only, 3 episodes away from being actually able to talk about NBA regular season basketball. I'm excited about that. I had a whole plan for tonight, and I forgot that Austin was on vacation, because we were going to do, spoiler alert, we were going to do way too early predictions for awards for next season. But we're going to do that next week, because I don't want to do that without Austin being here. I don't think that's fair to him, because that's something that he actually enjoys. So we're really just going to talk about news and preseason. Before we do that, we'll do the question of the day. And since today is going to be a fairly short episode, I'm going to ask a stupid question, because it just came across my Facebook feed, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever read. So I'm going to ask you, would you rather eat fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
Fruits.
All day.
Same. Absolutely same. Fruits are sweeter. It's like healthy candy.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, just to be devil's advocate, because we're both in agreement that fruits are the superior healthy food here. If you were to eat vegetables, which would they be? Because for me, I really do like Brussels sprouts. I like asparagus, like broccoli.
Carrots, Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, you can't go wrong whether you pick fruits or vegetables, but fruits is the right answer.
Fruits is the right answer.
Fruits is the right answer, but is it though? It is, but would you rather have a kiwano or broccoli? Kiwano doesn't taste like it. It has the texture of snot. I don't know. So preseason tipped off today. By the time this episode comes out, which will be Sunday, we will have a second round of games, which this weekend. So Saturday is the second round of the Abu Dhabi games, which is still going to be the Timberwolves versus the Mavericks. Timberwolves won today. We'll get into that in a second.
Which means I predicted that correctly.
I don't know if the Lakers and Warriors play in Abu Dhabi or if they're kicking off the Canada series. But they also play on Saturday. So those are the two games lined up for Saturday. So when this episode comes out, Sunday morning, if you're listening to this, you'll have had 3 games to have watched into preseason basketball. And some people, preseason, it doesn't matter, right? Unless my team wins, and then it's the foundation on which we're going to build the championship on, right?
Not even.
I do think there is value to preseason games. I don't think I don't think it's telling of how a season's going to go, right? Because it's irrelevant. It's a preseason game. Luka Doncic just dropped 25 points in 17 minutes. Yeah, Luka can do that, but it's preseason. For me, when I'm saying I think preseason is telling, is kind of how a culture of a team is forming, in terms of rookie development, young players that didn't get a lot of playing time last year, and this is their chance to kind of show their synergy with their teammates. So I think go ahead.
Good.
No, go ahead. I talked enough. Go ahead.
I think for rookies, yeah, it's way more important because you're getting your first taste of NBA like game flow. But at the same time, and I do this with the NFL, it's preseason matters in the sense that you need a way for players to get into game shape before actually starting real games to help avoid injuries as much as
Right.
possible.
Right.
That's the relevancy to me.
Conditioning is very important for preseason. I'm just saying, like, I don't think it sets a pace for how that season's going to go because a rookie or a young player, not necessarily a rookie, but a player that maybe that's their sophomore season, they're going to get reps at NBA speed and maybe even usage rate that they're not going to get during the regular season. And you can kind of gauge how the player has developed versus last year based on preseason. I don't think it's telling or indicative of what they're going to do next year or whether or not those growths are going to translate, but I do think there is value to watching preseason, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I don't think it's the be all end all. I don't think it's important. I don't think it matters, but I think there is value to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's my stance on it too.
So before we get into preseason, because that's really going to be the bulk of the episode, sorry, I'm having like massive coughing fits right now. A little bit of NBA news just around the league, and we'll touch on all of it. Just again, fill the time here. Hit the algorithm. So Joel Embiid has committed to playing for Team USA in the Olympics next year. That's a big win for Team USA. He had citizenship, from what I understand, to play for either Team USA, Cameroon, or France. I think Jason Tatum also committed to Team USA, so it's looking like Team USA is actually going to have
the revenge tours on, basically.
Yeah. It's going to be Redeem Team 2.0, at least on paper, because like we have seen historically worse teams in those international settings win those games against those much better teams, but you know, it is what it is.
This is America. We always have that thing where, after we don't win it, we have to flex our muscle and be like, this is America, and we got to showcase our dominance, basically.
And I mean, the game's gone global, and I don't think it's necessarily a given that USA will win gold, even if all of the star power commits, because there are incredibly talented people from all over the world now. So we'll see. I'm excited to have star players finally committing to playing for Team USA again. But again, I don't really care about international basketball as much as I should as a fan of the sport. It all kind of feels like glorified all-star games to me. Next, Joe Lacob. He's the owner of the Golden State Warriors. I don't know if you saw that, but he just bought an expansion team into the WNBA. It's going to be kept in the Bay Area.
Interesting.
Okay, so the WNBA is kind of a joke, right? Like it's the butt of jokes. But if you look at their profit margins over the last 3 years, 4 years, it's growing. Like there is growth there, there is value there. Hopefully, it keeps up because I think those players should be paid more.
They have to get the revenue.
It has to get the revenue, but it looks like they're going to be getting there. Like it's slowly but surely, the revenue of the WNBA is growing. Joking aside, it's growing. There's no arguing that. Anyone that's still arguing that at this point is they probably need to go outside. But
right, that's yeah.
I am I feel like we needed another WNBA team on the East Coast or in the Midwest. So it's just kind of depressing that we have yet another team going to a Western city that didn't really need one. But
I think it's more or less for revenue because you want to go where the money is, and generally speaking, the California is like a top 10 area to be in, regardless
well,
of location. Like it's a top 10 GDP just by itself in
and
the
I mean,
world.
like any team that's associated with the Warriors for at least the next 5 years is going to sell tickets, right?
Yeah.
Because they're probably, as of right now, because of Stephen Curry, one of the if not the largest fan bases in the lower 48. Um,
Hmm.
Obviously, Toronto has a larger reach because it's the only team in Canada, and so all of Canada's kind of behind them. But I feel like right behind that's probably the Golden State Warriors. I think Steph Curry was still the number one jersey last year. Um, so
That's kind of surprising, honestly.
it's really not like
It kind of is.
that's what we were talking about last week, though. Like on the episode, like Steph Curry transcended the game. Like we had a whole argument about it just a week ago today. So why is it surprising to you? Because this is someone like he's not Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan's a good example here. People buy Jordans. They buy Forces specifically
I guess that's true.
because of the
I,
person.
I don't know. I guess if the international game is as strong as you say it is, then Luca or Jokic should have it. That's just how I feel.
But at the same time, like, how are they going to like? I love Luca. I love Jokic. Like, I love both of their games. But their games are simple. Their games are not necessarily the most athletic. Even though Luca did hit that, I don't know if you've seen highlights from today's game or not. Um, there was a ridiculous and one play where Luca basically was like falling flat on his back, put it up, and got the and one. It was incredibly talented, to say the least. But nothing that either of them do is breaking the wheel, right? Like everything Jokic is doing, Arvydas Sabonis did. Um, I'm trying to think of another big. To an extent, Andre Bargnani did it. Like it's not necessarily game breaking or game changing. It's a skilled big, right? Luca is he's an anomaly, but he's still just a point forward. Like there's nothing revolutionary about it. Steph Curry,
Question. I have a
literally,
question for you because I saw
yeah.
something about this earlier. It was in one of the media scrums leading up to the preseason.
Hmm.
Jokic said something along the lines of he hasn't picked up a basketball in the last 4 months,
I
and
like. Oh, go. Sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead, continue.
and um, some people were implying that when AD did something similar, we chastised and crucified him for. So why isn't Jokic getting that same treatment
Um, I don't know
in a
because I think
similar situation if they
so.
had just won the title?
I think it's just differences in how we view their players. Like I think they both should be treated the same. I think that they both should be chastised for not taking the game seriously. But at the same time, like this is who Jokic is. Like we've known that forever. He doesn't like basketball. It's a paycheck, right? Whereas AD, like generational talent, first overall pick, like it's different. Should it be? No, but that's why it's viewed different, I guess.
So I didn't chastise AD at the time for it, and I'm not going to chastise Jokic, but I do think we should have a consistent standard as far as what we expect, especially considering like they're both top end players for their team.
I
We should
think
have.
there's also like there's there's this feeling amongst people, and I'm one of them, that like at any moment Jokic could just be like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna go raise horses, like, and just be done with basketball, walk away, and we never hear from him again. Whereas AD, he's gonna be back next year and the year after and the year after, and so I think we should hold them both to the same standards, but there is a reasoning why everyone's just kind of like, oh, well, that's just Jokic. He doesn't want to be here.
Hmm.
Um, Other NBA news. Sorry, I scrolled too far. Mr. Key Loyalty, Damian Lillard. You know
This
what
guy.
Lillard did? Did you hear what Lillard did?
What did Lillard do? No, hit me with
A,
it.
a week after leaving the Portland Trail Blazers, who he said he was going to spend his whole career with. Remember that?
No,
No, he did. Do you remember that? He
no, I
had a
don't.
song about it.
Oh yeah, that. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He was full blown, like he was committed. He was gonna ride for the brand.
Hmm.
Live a Blazer, die a Blazer. Remember that,
Yep,
Mr. Loyalty?
Mr. Loyalty.
He filed for divorce from his wife this morning.
Interesting.
I It's in my notes. There's really nothing there.
There's yeah, you're making nothing burger out of
That
this
that
one.
that's just a poking Angelo thing. Uh, Jimmy Butler showed up to media day. Changed
That's
man,
what I was waiting for.
changed man.
That's what
Look,
I was.
he's doing it. He's doing it for attention and like to be talked about. Like it's not a serious thing. Like as someone that does not like Jimmy Butler, I found it hilarious. Like my respect for Butler grew from that.
He did it last season. This isn't anything new
No, he
from.
does it every year.
Yeah,
But this year, the reason he did it, he showed up to media day after Dame gets traded somewhere else and Drew Holiday gets traded somewhere else. Emo, like he read the room and went with it. And when he was
yeah.
walking to the stage, did you hear what he said?
No.
Don't make me break character right now. He was committed to the bit. And then like Bam, like when they were doing the team
I
pictures,
saw
like
the
that are
Bam
like
during the photo shoot with
he
him
was
cracking up.
crying. Like that's going to be his 2K photo. Like once they do the roster updates for the opening night, Jimmy Butler with emo hair, snake bite piercings, like that's his 2K picture for the rest of the year.
I'm
I
all
love
for
it.
it.
I'm
I'm
all
ready
for it.
for it.
And then like mid-January, we're going to have completely forgot about it.
Yep.
And then he's gonna have a stat line pop up, and it's gonna pop up that picture, and he's gonna be back to normal Jimmy, like his normal hairstyle, like facial piercings gone, whatever. And it's gonna pop up with the freaking Hawthorne Heights home over. I'm here for it because TNT has to show it. I did
Jimmy
like,
gets it.
huh?
Jimmy gets it.
He's. I don't want to call him a troll, but the
Kinda is.
reason he does it is to get a reaction from the media,
Yep.
and I respect it.
Yeah. Hey, that's part of being Jimmy. Like, and it's even better because no one's like even this year. It's even worse than last year, where like if Miami makes the playoffs, we'll be shocked. Let's be real.
I I was shocked that Miami made the playoffs last year.
Right, but it'll be even worse because the East got even better.
Oh, that's that's
That
fair.
that's the
He's
point.
got a lot better.
Yeah. So
And the Heat got older. They didn't get better. They actually
and
got worse. They traded away a few or lost a few pieces
they lost all those pieces that got them. Well, not all of them, but
because
a
they
good chunk of those pieces that got them there.
Max Strus went to Cleveland. Gabe Vincent went to LA. They still have Caleb Martin, right?
Yep, they still have Caleb Martin.
Okay. And continuing age on Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love.
Yep.
Oh, whatever. Um, so Kyrie Irving. For Kyrie Irving.
What happened to Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie Irving is now an exec at a Chinese company, which I
Okay.
believe is Anta.
Okay.
Let me double check that. Yeah, Anta. It's a sneaker company.
Mhm.
I don't know how much you know about Anta.
Nothing.
They're not really that big. They have some shoes, but obviously he lost the Nike contract. The Nike replaced his shoe line with the Jaw shoe line, which was hysterical in
Hilariously.
hindsight, like absolutely groundbreaking. And then Kyrie went to Anta because they were the only ones that offered him a contract, I'd presume.
Mm-hmm.
They're a Chinese-based company. Um, and again, the only reason this is news is because Kyrie prides himself as being all about freedom and like fighting for the people that are in the Matrix or whatever. And Anta is a company that has been linked to systematic use of forced labor, like even more so than like all of the sneaker companies are. Let's not sit here and pretend they're not. But Anta's supposedly one of the worst about it. They're cheap shoes, cheaply made. They get the labor easier. Um, so it's just more problems for Kyrie, more bad execution of media strategy from whoever is in charge of that for him, because I'm sure he does. But when I was reading the news article, my favorite part of it, because I read through the whole thing and it's just like talking about like all these investigations that have happened and like whistleblowers. Um, the end of the article is one of the best pieces of sports journalism I've ever read. Are you ready for it?
Yep.
Can Kyrie Irving ever be held accountable to a corporate parent on the other side of the planet, a world he once declared flat?
Oh no.
I just like I can't make the chef's kiss like through a podcast, but that's what I'm doing right now. It was beautiful.
Oh, Kyrie caught a stray.
I mean, Kyrie caught the just straight up shot because the whole article was about him, but his he also caught a stray after the fact, which um was kind of funny. Uh, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about before we talked preseason. No, this isn't something I want to talk about. This is just something I found funny. So LeBron during the offseason, he's known for having teammates do stuff with him, right?
Yes.
Like whether it's training camps or vacations, whatever. Like he's very big on like team bonding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this year, the only teammate that did anything with him was Rui Hachimura, who made a few trips to travel with LeBron on the road this offseason. Not Anthony Davis. Not who else do they have? They have Russ Westbrook, don't they? They have Russ Westbrook, yeah.
No, they don't.
He's not there anymore? Where'd he
No.
go?
Off
Where is he?
season. He's in the Clippers. He went to the
He's on the
Clippers.
Clippers. I'm thinking the wrong LA team. Um mm,
You're struggling. They signed Gabe
yeah.
Vincent.
Gabe Vincent, yeah, superstar Gabe Vincent. The point is nobody wanted to hang out with LeBron because he's now the oldest player in the NBA. And no one wants to hang out with the old guy.
That's the breaks, man.
It's starting to slow down. We are in the twilight of LeBron's career, and that is sad.
How crazy is that LeBron is the oldest player in the NBA and we continually argue that he's top whatever 5'10" in the NBA currently.
What we did last year, let's hold off on it this year because last year it was an offensive show, but let's not sit here and pretend that the man's defense was still
So
up to snuff.
actually, I forgot who talked about it. I don't think it was Gilbert Arenas. Some it was either a current or former Spencer Dinwiddie. It was Spencer Dinwiddie who talked about how LeBron plays in like a calculated way where like if you're a normal NBA player, you'll jump as high as you can, run as fast as you can, and you'll redline. LeBron plays in a way where he never redlines. He gives just the right amount of energy, and he's so talented that looks better than like people giving full effort, and that's one reason why he's been able to maintain a consistent level of production and prevent being injured
Oh,
majorly for the most part.
absolutely. Like his offensive game and still his ability to somewhat play passing lanes is still top tier.
Hmm.
Like he still is probably the highest IQ basketball player on the planet.
Yeah.
Like the way that he reads a defense when he has the ball in his hands is like it's like a quarterback. That's what you want from a point forward. Um, but let's not pretend that it's a cold, calculated, forward-thinking maneuver when he's slowly walking back on defense against a fast break that he could have prevented because he's just gassed. And like that's not a slight on LeBron. He's old. He has a lot of miles on that body. Like it's okay. it, it, we got 20 years out of him. Like it's okay. We just have to accept it. We don't have to sit here and pretend like he's doing that to prevent an injury. Nah, he's tired. He's old.
No. He wasn't saying like this season. He's saying over the course of his career. Like he's done it essentially since the start.
Oh yeah, but like the man was so freakishly strong that unless your name was like Dwight Howard, you weren't stopping him at the rim. So the cold calculated maneuver was just dunk on the small man. Like let's he did develop a shot later in his career, to be fair to him, but it it was a lot of like there's a lot of people smaller and weaker than LeBron in the NBA over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Um I still think we get another 2 or 3 years out of LeBron easily. I don't think he's the kind to retire on the high note. I think he's going to wait until
Mm.
there is a significant noticeable reduction in his production.
Do you think we ever see LeBron off the bench?
I don't know.
Because honestly, like if he wanted to, for like he'd probably be like Tom Brady s playing into his like early to mid 40s. But if he wanted to ring chase at that point, I don't think anyone would front him, and it would just essentially pad the stats, I guess. But
No, I think that it would be a matter of pride. Well, one, I think that if you have LeBron James just because of the name LeBron James, you're starting him.
yeah, I
Whether
guess that's
he's
true.
playing starter minutes or not doesn't matter. Like he's starting that game for you and then he's going to the bench early and coming off the bench from there. And from a layman's point of view, there's not going to be much of a difference.
Hmm.
But in terms of minute distribution, like in a 6-man role, because 6-man doesn't necessarily mean need to check this actually, but 6-man doesn't necessarily mean you come off the bench at the start of the game. I think it's specifically how many minutes you play. I think you have
The
to
six
play.
most minutes is what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I have to double check. I don't think it's 6 most minute. I think there's like stipulations to it.
Okay.
Of course, Austin's not here, but uh, yeah, I could definitely see him in that role because again, you don't even like LeBron 5 years from now, it's still LeBron James. You're not signing him to come off the bench. He's starting. He might only give you 17 minutes a game, but he's out there at the opening tip. I can't see a world in which LeBron is not on the floor off the tip off.
That's
And that's the same for like a Steph Curry or any of those like big name players. Um I'm trying to think of any example of like a transcendent player like that ever coming off the bench, and I can't think of one.
Shaq.
Shaq's a little different. because like Shaq during like the Celtics era, that's not like LeBron is still going to be able to move. Shaq could not move. Shaq was
Mhm.
way too slow to play in the modern NBA, and it was more like you're signing him for the locker room. And maybe that is LeBron at some point in his career. Maybe you're signing him because he's a leader. He's the guy that's going to come into the locker room and tell you what you need to do to get there. Because
Mhm.
he's been there a lot. He's been there more than anyone in the current NBA.
Yep.
But I just, from a
I mean,
pride
technically, he's
standpoint,
been there more than anyone in NBA history.
fair. But I just can't see LeBron from a pride standpoint doing that.
That's fair.
So I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I think we've got 2 or 3 more productive years out of LeBron, which is still insane to think about. Um, but maybe he'll surprise me and retire early. Because like in 2K, like he retires as soon as you finish your first season in 23,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just I
Not
don't see
gonna
that
happen.
happening.
That's just not gonna happen.
No, I think we get him at least until Bronny's in the league. If Bronny makes the league, and then after that, who knows? I think he'll probably retire as the oldest active player on a roster all time. I need to find out what that is, but I think that's
No, that's
it.
like Udonis Haslam.
How old was UD? Like active. Like I mean participating in a game on a regular
Oh, okay.
nightly. Like
Yeah,
a
that's
key
probably true.
contributor. I think that LeBron will be the first one because like Dirk was 41 when he retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think yeah. So I don't know. So preseason game 1, you were correct. You beat Austin and I. Hopefully you made that little wager on 2K.
Mm.
So hold on, let me pull it up because I closed it. So
Uh,
preseason.
I have,
Huh,
I have, I guess maybe not a suggestion, an idea, maybe
mhm,
going forward. So me and Alex, at the start of the season, we reviewed every football game.
uh-huh.
We found that that was too long and too tedious. The episodes were consistently over 3 hours, and we couldn't even get everything done. So what we eventually went to is doing our top 10 power rankings at the end of each week. Now, I don't suggest we do this every week, but
Mhm.
do you think we could do our top 10s, like we could even do it quarterly, our top 10 at that point in the season?
Oh,
Power rankings.
absolutely.
Because I don't think that would be a bad idea, especially for in-season content.
No. That I think that's a good idea. It's I'm fine with that. I think we do it the first week and then we do it every like month. That's fine by me.
Okay.
Um, that's a off the air conversation though, because
Sorry, I
whatever.
just had it on the
Um,
fly.
so Mavericks, Timberwolves,
Timber
game
Puppies.
1. Technically, this is the game that kicks off the 2023-2024 season. God, that feels weird to say.
Mavericks are already 0-1.
Mavericks are 0-1. So the starting lineup for the Mavericks was what I expected it to be: Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Oliver, Maxence Prosper, Grant Williams, and Derek Lively. Starting lineup for the Timberwolves was Mike Conley, Nikhil Alexander Walker, Jaden McDaniels, Karl Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert, which should be pretty close to what we see opening night.
Yeah. Once again, it's preseason, and don't take too much out of this. But does it concern you at all that of the minutes that they got, Kyrie only got 2 points, and Lively specifically, who was the rookie they drafted, only got 2 points as well?
Not necessarily, because Lively was not drafted to score. Like, that's not the reason Lively's there. for me, I think the most concerning thing from the Mavericks continues to be the same thing that was my concerns last season, which is their depth.
Defense.
Well, defense is that that's why Lively's there, but the
Yeah.
depth of this team is not. It leaves a lot to be desired. When Rashawn Holmes, Maxi Kleber, and Seth Curry are your go-to guys off the bench, there's questions there, and specifically as you said, defense. Markieff Morris is another one. I thought Derek Lively looked solid.
Okay.
Grant Williams, there's going to be some adjustments there. Luka looked fantastic. Again, it's preseason, but it's like nothing was lost from like the offseason. Like there wasn't that shaking off the rust that we are seeing with Kyrie. Like Luka just looks like Luka. On the other side, Karl Anthony Towns looks solid, but for me, Shake Milton, like there was that question of who were the Timberwolves going to run at the backup guard.
Mm-hmm.
Shake Milton earned that spot. He looks solid. He looks clean. He looks nice. Naz Reid off the bench, 16 points. Luke Garza off the bench, 12 points.
Pretty solid. That's pretty solid.
We'll get into it next week when we make our way too early predictions, but I'm kind of high on the Timberwolves right now. And
the preseason, but yeah, I get
it's preseason, but just like looking at their roster makeup, it's a well-constructed roster with the exception of the fact that I don't think Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jaden McDaniels is the smartest way to run your 1 through 3.
Ant didn't even play that game.
No, Ant was out.
Yeah.
Side note, LeBron will be out the first game of Lakers Warriors.
Shocker. Yeah.
Just saw that come through like as we're sitting here.
Yeah.
Also Matt Ryan is on the Timberwolves roster, so football carryover here.
No, not football carryover. You don't remember Matt Ryan from that Lakers late season run?
I'm not going to talk about it. Not going to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think like Shake Milton is who I'm saying, like based on that game, I think he is kind of shown he's going to be that backup guard. Jordan McLaughlin is the other guy that I think is in the running for that.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll kind of see the rest of preseason how it goes. Obviously, Conley, he's going to be the starter. But I think there is a legitimate fight going on for that second string slot, and it's between those two guys. I don't know, between the two teams, like it wasn't a great game. It didn't look good in any stretch of the imagination. Neither team was really playing defense. There were a lot of like highlight moments. Like I said, the Luka, go watch that highlight. It was really nice. He's basically falling on his back, like backwards. Like he is flat on his back, and his head is where the rim is, and he makes it. It's an and one. It's a nice play. It's a really athletic play. Overall, for a first game of the preseason, wasn't too excited.
Pretty solid.
It was solid, but it wasn't exciting. Like
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily enjoy it that much. But this weekend, again, this episode will have come out by the time Warriors, Lakers,
No LeBron.
Mavericks, and Bulls. No LeBron, but Warriors, Lakers. I'm excited for the Warriors.
Yeah, I would be too.
So before we wrap up,
wait, we're already thinking about wrapping up? What?
What do you want to talk about? There's not news this week.
Man.
What do you want to talk about James Harden? He finally showed up to training camp.
Yeah, let's talk about James Harden.
Let's talk about James Harden. Okay, we'll talk about James Harden. So James Harden, Media Day, did not show up, did not report to the 76ers facilities for Media Day. Showed up for team practice this morning.
There you go. Do you look good?
I have no idea. The only thing I follow for James Harden is whether or not he's been traded to this Clippers or not yet. The holdup is the Clippers don't want to include extra draft capital. The Sixers refuse to budge without extra draft capital. The Houston Rockets, specifically Ime Udoka, has come out and said that he prefers Van Vliet to Harden, so that's why they didn't move forward with trading for Harden. His specific words were Van Vliet is a smarter player. Um, but, and this is a good sign, James Harden did not show up to training camp in a fat suit. So
That's
maybe
the headline.
maybe the bridges have been mended. I don't know. Tobias Harris was talking about it. I don't have any of this pulled up because I don't none of this matters because James Harden will probably not be a 76er in 2 weeks' time.
So
Am I wrong?
I have a question for you.
Go ahead. Let's go.
Which do we consider James Harden a superstar, or at least a borderline
Not anymore.
superstar still?
Not anymore.
Okay,
I don't.
that kind of invalidates. Which player do you think is like the worst superstar to have on your roster?
Worst superstar to have on your roster.
Yep.
I mean, based on recent results, Trae Young.
Trae Young.
He's still a superstar, but like he's an example. You cannot win on scoring alone. He's one of the best scorers in the game. And maybe it's not fair because I wouldn't say Damian Lillard is.
That
But
is surprising. That's not who I thought you were going to say.
who would you say?
Kawhi Leonard.
Why would I say Kawhi? Kawhi gives you production on both ends of the floor. So for me,
But for like 40 to 60 games a year.
right, but
I thought you said availability was the most important thing. This is just what I thought you said.
I think availability is the most important thing.
So
But
why then is Kawhi not the worst superstar?
because you're not asking about that, you're asking purely on talent. If I'm building a team over the next 5 years, I'm taking Trae over Kawhi. But in terms of right now, yeah, Trae's probably the worst top 15 player. Maybe Jalen. And the reason I say that is there was a video that came out of training camp today. This man's getting paid $50 million and he can't dribble with his left hand.
Correct.
Like, I don't care if you're not a primary ball handler. If you are a basketball player, you should be able to dribble with your offhand. Doesn't have to be amazing. Doesn't
NBA player.
An NBA player. Well, I mean, I said if you're getting paid $50 million.
Oh, that's fair.
You should be able to dribble with both hands. Doesn't even have to be elite. I'm not expecting you dip into your bag of tricks.
Your trips.
Your
Silly
bag of
rabbit. Trips are for kids.
Your bag of tricks. Left hand, hezzy, in and out. I'm not expecting that. I'm saying he's standing there dribbling, and it's like he's uncomfortable just dribbling the ball up and down. Go watch it. It's sad.
Go watch it. It's sad.
It's depressing. I've seen kids at the local rec that have better handles, and they're not getting paid $50 million a year. Who would you say then is the worst quote unquote superstar player?
I don't know if I'd classify Trae as a superstar.
You don't, but okay. So
Who's
based
the
on
worst? That's a
right,
good question.
it's a very good question. Julius Randle? Do you consider Julius Randle a superstar?
Not really, no. I think just based on the results, it might have to be Embiid.
That's no.
You don't think so?
No.
How many players do you consider superstars have had deeper playoff runs than Embiid? It's a lot of them. Kawhi has, LeBron has, Jokic has, Brown and Tatum have.
I have a hard time.
I'm trying to think of the player with who gets more hype. Maybe Luca.
No.
I'm trying to think of a player who gets that much hype but doesn't produce results as far as playoff appearances,
Uh,
advancements, and
up, up,
even
up.
then, Luca has a conference finals appearance under his belt where I don't think Embiid does he?
He does not. What about Pascal Siakam?
Is he a superstar?
I would consider him a super. Oh,
Yeah,
he's up there. He's up there. I don't know if he breaks top 15, but he's up there because his best success was as a second man.
yeah, to Kawhi.
Uh, Devin Booker,
Has made it further than Embiid consistently.
but he's had so much help.
He has had so much help. But even with the Suns finals run, he was the best player. It wasn't Chris Paul. So
I don't
yeah,
know.
I'm struggling to think of the player who has done the most in the regular season, who has the most hype, who I'd consider superstar, who has accomplished as little as Joel Embiid has accomplished as far as postseason.
I think it has to, like, even if you don't consider him a superstar, I think it has to be Trey. Because the general consensus is he is a
Trey's made
superstar.
it to a conference finals. If we really want to go that route,
Right. But you're valuing, again, we're going back to the ring valuement from last year or last week. Just based on productivity, I think it has to be Trey.
okay. You say so.
I don't know. That's a loaded question. We'll ask Austin next week when he's on, because he'll be back next week. Crap. There was something else I actually wanted to talk about because I was scrolling and I read it, and I had saved it at one point.
Hmm.
Sorry, I was scrolling and I read the Toronto Raptors view Jakob Poeltl as an offensive focal point and someone they can run the offense through this season.
Yeah, maybe in Toronto.
I started having a laughing, coughing fit.
I mean, who else is it going through? It's Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam. After that, I
uh,
I
I mean, that's where I draw the line.
don't
uh,
know.
Portland is going to be the next round of WNBA expansion, so we have just throwing that out there because that just came through. Another Western Conference team, Neato. Jimmy Butler on if he's disappointed that Damian Lillard and Drew Holiday did not get traded to the Heat. No, not at all. I'm happy for both of those guys. I'm more pissed off that he went to Milwaukee as he went to Adrian Griffin's team. Everybody knows I don't like him since my Chicago days. Jimmy Butler is a teenage girl.
You gotta love it.
Paul George says the. Oh, go ahead.
Let's run this hypothetical real quick.
Okay, let's go. Hypotheticals, love him.
Miami beats Milwaukee in the playoffs again. What's the backlash?
Well, one, I don't think that happens this year.
I don't think it sounds impossible, but it also sounded impossible last year. So it happens again. What's the backlash?
Look,
because I think Dame gets the biggest backlash in that scenario.
well, one, I think that would be like Giannis's final straw.
Giannis's final straw.
Yeah, I like. Yes, he's won with Milwaukee, which is impressive, but I think that would be like the nail in the coffin. Now, I'm not gonna even indulge like what would happen if the Heat, because if the Heat beat them this year, I'm done. Like I'm out. Like,
You're
all right,
out.
like hold on, let me. So if at some point uh, Orlando Robinson, Haywood Highsmith, and R.J. Hampton decide to suddenly shoot 9 for 10 from 3 each in a playoff game, you know what? Fine. I give up.
Yeah, I give up.
Maybe Jamal Cain, Drew Smith, all those household names. Because they'll go off, and then everyone will be like, "Ah, Hemi." Okay, like no disrespect to Jimmy Butler. Like I don't like Jimmy Butler. I respect Jimmy Butler, but I'm so sick of him getting credit for being in the right place at the right time.
Being in the right place at the right time. That's a good way to say it.
So let's start of last season. Would you have bet money that Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, and Max Strus were going to be key pieces on a championship run?
No.
No, no one would. They were, but it was himmening.
It
Himmy
was
Butler.
himmening.
It wasn't.
It was
He
the
was
himmening.
part of it, but it was not him. Stop acting like he was the sole reason this team did what they did, because it's not happening again. Uh,
But if it does, then
again,
you give up.
yeah, I give up. I'm done. I'm out. Deuces. Uh, how are you excited to watch the pick and roll from Dame and Giannis? Because
It should be
that's the thing.
unstoppable.
That's the thing I'm most excited for because it absolutely should be unstoppable. There's nothing you can do to stop that. The only team that might have a chance would probably be the Celtics because they have defenders that can switch so well. Um, but you have to go over on any screen featuring Lillard, and Giannis is such a force of nature. I just don't know how, like, that. They don't have to call any freaking plays. All they have to do is call for the screen, run it every time.
Yeah.
Um, Here's one for you, JD Bickerstaff. We could easily go 11
Caps
deep. The
coach.
11th, yeah, we could easily go 11 deep. The 11th guy will find his minutes throughout the bulk of the season. It's difficult to get 11 guys of consistency a 48-minute game, but that 10-man rotation be with whoever the 11th, 12th, or 10th guy is.
That's not English. I think
I
that
I think Bickerstaff started to have a little stroke there.
I think that's Bickerstaff for we're really deep, and I kind of have well, it's true, but I also kind of have concerns because especially during playoffs, you want to shrink your lineup and not expand your lineup. So I like it in the sense that having that expanded lineup is probably going to get us to the playoffs more, at least more likely to get into the playoffs healthy. But at the same time, it's really more or less down to those 6 to 8 people to get us there.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a very front-loaded team, even though it does have a lot of bench rotation depth.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think I've got anything else.
Okay.
Uh,
So last year during the playoffs, you and I both said there's an off chance that the Cavs can make a run. Do you still feel with the additions of the East, the Cavs still have that off chance, or do you think
I think,
the ship
yes.
has sailed on that?
No, I think that their window is still very much open.
Okay.
It's still a very, very, very young team. I think it's the youngest team that we're actually considering a contender, unless you consider the Thunder a contender, which I think they're still probably a year away. I
Mm-hmm.
think to say that the Cavs is a contender is a fair claim. Will they win it? Probably not, but they're
Right.
in the running.
Okay.
And I think that's. I don't think that's changed even with the East getting better because they do have, for all intents and purposes, one of the better shots at stopping Giannis, which is Evan Mobley, Isaac
And
Okoro,
Jared Allen.
and Jared Allen. Isaac Okoro, obviously not what we expected when he was drafted, but he's still a solid on-ball defender. He'll give you he'll give you a run at Dame, but if the Cavs get hot at the right time, they absolutely could take out the Bucks. Celtics are an interesting story because I think the Cavs match up better against the Celtics than they do the Bucks. Um,
I agree with that.
outside of that, I think
Yeah, because
I
Dame.
think
Because Dame.
those are my 1 through 3 this year. And whatever order you put them in, I think the Bucks take 1, Celtics 2, Cavs 3. But if you were to say any other order, sure. Like I think it's going to be a very tight Eastern Conference this year until you get to like the 7th and 8th seed, and then I think it's going to be kind of a turkey shoot for who's going to get in that last slot, and who's going to be in the play-in. But the East just overall looks really good this year. It reminds me of like the 2012 Western Conference. I think all of the teams until you get to like 14, 15 are legitimate playoff threats. Whether or not they'll be past the first round threats is another story, but I think the East as a whole just looks really good this year. Because even when you're looking at like those lower rung teams like the Hornets or the Magic or the Nets,
The
like
Heat.
the Heat still have a superstar player, but
Oh yeah, that's true.
like when you're looking at those teams that were legitimate lottery teams this year, um, I think that they have the ability to maybe squeeze into that play-in spot, and I think that's good for competition in the East. Out West is going to be a lot more interesting, and we'll get into this as we get closer to the season because we'll start doing our predictions in the next 2 weeks. Um, but no, I'm really excited as someone that lives in the Eastern Conference in the Eastern Time Zone, and like those are the majority of the games that I'm going to be able to watch. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of really exciting things happening in the NBA this coming
Yeah,
season.
oh, this is going to be a really fun season.
I think the most pressure is on Dame and the Bucks because if they don't make the finals at least, I think that trade in this season is a failure.
I think for
So,
Dame, I don't think for the Bucks.
okay, that's
Because if
fair
you're the
way.
Bucks, you make that trade 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's true.
Like whether it works or not, like I can't hold it against them. I would do that every time if I was them. For Dame, especially if like one of the other teams makes it. And obviously he didn't like he had a say in where he was going, but he didn't have control.
Right.
So honestly, now that I'm saying that, like I can't hold it against him because he wasn't a free agent. He didn't decide to sign with this team. Um so yeah, no, for both of them, like
I think even if that's the case for Dame, this is make it to the finals or you failed this year
and it's
because of the way it went down.
yeah.
So,
But let's say okay, so it was between the Heat, the Bucks, and who was the Phoenix?
yes.
So let's say Heat and Phoenix get eliminated first round. Bucks make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and get eliminated. Is that a failure?
Yes.
Even though the other teams that you would have gone to got eliminated earlier?
Yes, because you weren't on those other teams.
I guess, but I don't know. Like, that's kind of a sunk cost thing at that point because you made it further than the other teams. So,
For the teams in for the teams or Dame.
for Dame.
Oh, no. Then yeah, that's a failure.
For Dame?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Listen, Giannis can sing Kumbaya But it doesn't erase the fact that he was the 1 seed, he lost to the 8 seed, and the expectation is either a deep playoff run or preferably making it to the finals. With adding Dame on top of that, if your expectations isn't finals or bust, what are you doing?
No, I get that, and I'm not disagreeing at all. Like, the expectation is finals or bust. It's championship or bust. But at the same time, like, from the Bucks' perspective, you make that trade every time, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. That's not a
Yeah, from
failure.
the Bucks perspective, absolutely.
From Dame's perspective, who didn't have really agency because he was not a free agent, he was at the expense of what the Portland Trailblazers were willing to do.
Right, and he sent him to the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference last year. So yes, it's a failure if you don't make a deep playoff run and go to the finals.
But he didn't have a say, is what I'm trying to say. So, like, how is it a failure on his part?
Because even if the Bucks weren't on the list, the Bucks are still the best team and roster he's ever been on.
Okay, so let me, because I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. So, let's say he makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals and gets eliminated on the Bucks, and the Heat get eliminated in the first round or don't make the playoffs. That's a failure.
For Damian Lillard.
Okay, so let's flip the script. Let's say he went to Miami, and the Bucks get eliminated in the first round. The Heat get eliminated in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's a failure.
Yes.
So the only way Damian Lillard does not fail is if he wins the championship.
No, not wins the championship, makes it to the finals.
That's the only way. That's the only outcome
Yes.
in which he doesn't fail.
Yes.
That's such a high standard of expectation. That's
It
kind
is.
of.
But that is the
But
expectation that comes with being on a roster that is expected to compete for championships, saying you won out justifiably, and then naming finals contending teams as your preferred destinations. So yes, you should expect to make it to the finals for the first time in your career. Yes.
we'll see. I think he absolutely should expect it. I don't view it as a failure if he doesn't, because basketball is a team game. We have this conversation every other week.
Yeah.
Okay, Damian Lillard drops 40 and 10 every game in the Eastern Conference Finals and gets eliminated. Is that a failure on Damian Lillard's part?
Yes.
Stop it.
What?
It's a team game, Angelo.
So let me ask you this. What do we talk about when we talk about MJ versus LeBron?
Depends on
It's 6 versus
person.
4.
So
It's 6 versus 4.
it
So
was that for a while, and then like when it became clear that he wasn't gonna catch him in rings, it became points,
but
and
it's
now it's
6 versus
longevity.
4, especially if you're on the MJ side. So LeBron led a series in points, rebounds, assists, and if I'm not mistaken, steals or blocks, and was considered the finals MVP.
Hmm.
That's still a failure on LeBron's record to those defenders. So yes, it is a failure to Damian Lillard if he does not make the finals. That is the expectation.
Like I said, it's a team game. I can't until we see the outcome of that series, the hypothetical series. You can play perfectly, and your team lets you down. So I can't say just because he loses, that's a failure on his part. Is it disappointing? Yes. But I wouldn't call it a failure if he does everything he can to win that game or win that series and his team lets him down. That's putting too much burden on one player in a game played by, and the playoffs rotations are 8-man, 9-man deep. But
Yeah.
No, that's too much on one player. And to say that early in the season, I can't get behind that. Now, if he goes out and like shoots like 2 for 13, the Angelo 2K special,
When have I shot 2 for 13?
2 days ago, 3 days ago, right before you left for vacation, actually.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna start screenshotting this shit. Then yeah, it's on him. But I can't say it's always on him. Speaking of 2K, stream.
I was actually wondering if we were going to do a bonus episode or we were going to talk about that here. So are we pushing it back because I'm not sure when we're going to have Austin back?
Oh, tertiary planning. Will be the 11th. We don't have a time set in stone, but follow us on socials. I think Dylan's taking over. Is Dylan taking over the socials?
Pour into you and Austin, yeah.
Okay, so Dylan's taking over the socials. So follow us on socials, and you'll get that answer. I finally got the pro-am team set up, so that's nice. But tertiary, we'll say the 11th. We will update it based on Austin, because he'll be driving back that night.
Mm-hmm. So it's very possible it won't be till the 12th.
Well, that day. So he just said it depends on how tired he is, but it's only a 3-hour drive. So like, bruh, it's not that far. That's all I got.
So, what are your expectations
For what?
the stream?
We're gonna play a drinking game.
We're gonna
And
play, so I need alcohol.
Yeah. And you all listeners will know the rules for the drinking game, but the rest of the team will not. The only person that will be Austin, because Austin will be a judge for it. The rules of the game are basically, if certain criteria are met, Austin or one of us, if we notice it, will call it out. We'll have a word. We haven't decided on the word. Austin made a point that we shouldn't use the word we were thinking of using.
Fair.
And the game is over if the players involved realize what's happening. So one of two things will happen. One, we'll get to the end of the night, and Angelo and I will be absolutely belligerent, or they'll find out in like 2 minutes, and it'll be boring. But that's the plan. And then we'll just play some 2K, have some conversations, have some fun. Just our normal stuff. So basically, if you're a fan of this podcast, the idea behind this podcast came from our conversations and arguments and discussions while we're playing 2K about basketball. That's what kind of sparked this. That was the little ember that lit the fire. So if you like what we're doing here, and if you're at this point in this episode, you've probably been listening to us for a while. If you want to see it in its rawest form, because we don't do like second takes. We don't give pauses and breaks. Like, we record straight through. That's why you will hear pauses this episode, because I had to stop to cough. That's how we do it. But this is still more structured, and there is a weird echo. Good example here of what we do. We don't stop, we don't edit, we don't change anything. This is all raw, uncut content. But it's still structured. If you want an idea of what it originally was, like what started this, then check us out on the stream. It'll be linked in the RSS feed. So wherever you listen to us, if you go to the information for this episode, you should see it.
Are you optimistic about how the games might go based on our most recent practices?
I think that this year has definitely been the best year for us. I think the game fits how we play, and I think this idea, because like this year is the first year we didn't try to make like symbiotic players like that work together. We each just made players we wanted to make, and I think that has benefited us a lot. So yeah, no, I think it'll be fun. Like regardless of the outcome of the games, I think I'll enjoy it, and that's all I really care about. Is it fun, yes or no? And I think it will be. I've been having a lot of fun with this 2K, and I like getting Riley involved in it. Like
Hmm.
I think it was fun. I think it's a good setup.
Okay.
What about you? You pumped? You thrilled? Static?
Well, pumped is debatable. We'll see. We shall see. So, here's a question because I didn't read all of the feedback on the football pod. So, I'm going to give you a chance to give it to me live. What was the feedback on the football pod?
So the football pod feedback I got. And this is weird to kind of tie into the basketball podcast. So, and this is also something Austin and I noticed from our guest appearance is you guys start like there's a lot of steam in like the opening of the episode, and then it
Mhm.
kind of tapers off, and the energy doesn't stay consistent throughout of it. And
That's
I
fair.
think that's something that like you specifically, because you are the host of that, you have to kind of steamroll and like make sure the energy is staying up because you can hear how I'm talking right now. There's a little bit of speed, a little bit of energy, even this late into our episode. And I feel like in the episodes I've listened to and from the feedback is towards the end of it, Alex kind of takes over. And based on the time, because from my understanding, he records late at night because he's from Argentina,
Portugal.
Portugal. Same thing. It's not the same thing at all. That was horribly offensive. Sorry. Um, so he's recording later at night, and he starts to get tired, and you can hear it. And that's the one bit of feedback that I've gotten as a main feedback piece is that there's not a lot of energy levels in it compared to this. Because in this, like we're constantly going at each other. We're constantly like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Whereas in that, it's like you each say your piece and like that's it. Like there's not really debate on it. Whereas here, like we're talking about Dame Lillard like 2 weeks in a row now. Um, that would be the biggest piece of feedback I've gotten on it. Is just the energy. Like everyone says, the knowledge is there. It's great. Like very understanding. Like from a football standpoint, but from a podcast standpoint, gotta pump those numbers up to like do some shots of espresso right before you start recording.
There you go.
That's the need.
All right.
Um,
So, a tweet just came through.
mhm.
Apparently, this was Damian Lillard on the new Dame Giannis duo, and he posed the question of, "Are you going to clog up the paint, or are you going to allow me to take 9 threes a game?
Sorry, repeat that.
Are you going to clog the paint to stop Giannis, or are you going to stop me from taking 9 threes a game? Because you can't do both."
There's some teams that can do both, but then you also have Chris Middleton and Brooke Lopez. So like,
Yeah, I like
I'm
the confidence, honestly.
I'm gonna try to stop him taking threes because I'll give twos over threes more than
That's fair.
yeah.
Especially Giannis, there's no one that can really.
Yeah,
Well, I'm not
you
gonna say
don't.
no one, but there aren't very many players who can stop Giannis when
No,
he's
and
going downhill.
it's like young LeBron. You don't plan to stop him. You plan to slow him. That's your only hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think LeBron's worst game. What was LeBron's worst scoring game
In the playoffs,
in general?
he's had a few duds.
Lowest
Like,
scoring games by LeBron James. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games where he didn't score 10 points.
yep. There you go.
Like,
There's some duds.
yeah, but it's
But
8.
8 games over 20 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, because yeah, he has quite a few games where he only scored 10, but that's still double-digit scoring, and And in those games, he like one of them he played 17 minutes, 11 minutes, 11 minutes. Like you don't stop LeBron James, you slow him, and that's kind of the hope with Giannis. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. Got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right, hey guys, if you've listened this far, go ahead and follow us if you haven't already. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. Ring the bell for notifications. Help us with the algorithm. It is improving, but there's still a lot of people that listen to us week over week that are not subscribers, which is interesting to me. So if you're listening to this and you listen to us regularly, do that. It helps us a lot. Check out Angelo and Alex over on the No Reserves Football Podcast Tuesday, Thursday. You'd think I would know this for sure every week, but I don't.
Honestly, it's been changing, especially with Alex's busy schedule. But Thursday is for sure, and then Tuesday is subjective. So sometimes we do Tuesday, sometimes we do Wednesday. But Thursday
As
is always for sure.
as we get into the regular season for the NBA, we might pick up a little bit on the basketball podcast, just at least to start the season, kick it off, because there's going to be a lot of information over those first few weeks.
Of course.
But we'll keep you updated on that as we get closer and closer. We'll still stick to Sundays, but we might add another day just to.
I kind of like Wednesdays for the football one anyway, because then all the games have been played, and we can actually get a real good review and or good top 10 because all the teams have been played.
So, thanks for joining us tonight. Like I said, follow us on the socials. Dylan's going to take over. You'll get more information there, like the week we missed an episode because we were all sick. Next week we'll be back full strength. Austin will be back. And maybe we'll have a guest host because maybe someone will actually do what they said they're going to do. We'll see. That's all I got. Thanks for joining us. See you guys next week.